Right, thank you so much, Tolulope, for that wonderful segment. Now we quickly bring you back to Benin Network Center, where we turn our focus to the state of the nation and shining a spotlight on the economic ramifications of the ongoing labor union strike. Joining us virtually from New York, United States, is Dr. Dennis Osanho Akoroge, who will be providing insight into the impact of the labor unrest and what the impact is going to be on our economy and the way out of the continuous strike action. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Dennis.
Yes, good morning, Daniel. It's nice to be on your program this morning.
Thank you so much. It's a delight having you. And sorry for keeping you waiting. And now we'll go straight into the discussion proper. Take us through, looking at continuous strike that we've been having in the nation. Is there a way out of it?
State whether there's a way out of it, the players from the side of the government and from the labor leaders themselves. They have to be sincerity of purpose when they are doing their negotiations. So that once and for all, we'll deal with this issue of continuous strike in the nation, because every aspect of the unionism in Nigeria goes on strike, from ASU, TUC, nameless of them. The agitations goes on. So I think they have to take the seriousness in their negotiation so that they feed to the letters of their negotiations and abide by it, to be genuineness of purpose when they are joining these negotiations.
Okay, now walk us through what actually triggered the recent strike that we experienced, had to do with the attack on the NLC president in Imo State recently. What is your assessment on the attack on Joe Ajaero, the NLC president?
Thank you. I believe that the attack on the NLC president, Ajaero, I think is unwarranted. It was a very high-handedness of government for you to descend mercilessly the number one labor person in Nigeria. Gone were the days when even the military respect labor leaders in Nigeria. Perhaps even a governor in Nigeria can mercilessly the LSE president beating pop and play, and nothing is happening. So I'm kind of on the side of labor to register their grievances for what has just fired.
Okay, now what's your take on the current relationship between labor leaders and the Nigerian government? There seems to be a kind of disharmony or a kind of disjointed trust there. How do we bring those two bodies as one so that we can have a better nation?
Yes, thank you. Like I said from the beginning, there's not been sincerity of purpose when labor and government meet. And when a government agreement with labor, when a new one comes in, there's a renege of the agreement of the previous government. Take, for example, when Jonathan was in government, he reached an agreement with the LSE at that time. And when Buhari comes in, he does not want to, heed to that, does not want to follow the agreement of his predecessor. So that brings a kind of distrust between the labor and government. So there needs to be continuity in terms of agreement between labor and government, that there will be that unity and trust in both parties, regardless of who signed the agreements or negotiations between labor and government. Go to the letter. When there is agreements paired, and that is when there will be trust between both parties. And as I know, government has not been meeting to its own part of the bargain. So of these strike actions and distrust between government and labor.
Okay, now when there's a serious disharmony or when there's dispute between the labor union and government and economic activity shut down will affect the economy to an extent, how do you feel the continuous strike action, in your own opinion, has affected Nigerian economy? The economy is struggling at this point, and what's your assessment and how do you think it has impacted economy?
Yes, thank you. I think this continuous and persistent strike by various labor unions in Nigeria are having a toll on the Nigerian economy. Though we not have the correct indices or data to appraise or evaluate the impact of this continuous strike on the Nigerian economy, I do believe there's a serious impact on the economy because everywhere the economic activities are grounded, the banks are closed. It affects even education. Children don't go to school. Both those in government, the public and private sector. Like I just alluded to the fact that banks are closed and other places, just to, comply with labor directives. So it's having its own toll on the economy. It's affecting the GDP economy. Just like I said, we don't pay much attention to the impact, probably because the data may be lacking. But I do believe to some extent the Nigeria Bureau of Statistics may have the data to analyze or evaluate its impact on the economy.
Okay, are there successful international model that we can import to strengthen our labor unions here in Nigeria?
Talking about model we could import, yes, no, I think basically what needs to be done is government meeting its own part of the obligation. That when you reach a bargain on an agreement with labor, you stick to it and you honor it. And when you are not honoring these agreements, that's the cause of the friction between labor and government. So recently there was this strike and was just called off this morning. We don't know what extent government have made its own side of its obligation. The chief of staff, Femi Bajamela, has been trying to intervene in various attempts for labor to go on strike. So we don't know what compromise or the reach for labor to call off the strike for these couple of times now. So it's my belief that government should, to its own side of the bargain and get this done once and for all. So it's only when government, keep to its own part of the bargain, give what labor wants. I know the agitation by labor is one out of the hike in fuel price and the removal of fuel subsidy recently by the president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. That calls for labor to wanted to go on strike. And the chief of staff stepped in and they reached an agreement. So what was contained in that agreement, and as the promises made by the federal government, have they been carried out? Like, how do you cushion the effect of the removal of subsidies? Are there mass transit? Are there the 36 states of the federation? to kind of cushion the effect of the removal of fuel subsidies. No, this has not been done. I only know that Governor Obaseki, to some extent, provided free transportation in Benin City. I think this is just a standalone action by those states. I know other states did not follow suit, so it's not like the federal government policy to make it uniform. We need to have something of such around the country, and also you try as much as possible to make sure inflation is checked, the price of goods and services are checked also, reduce the impact of the removal of subsidies on Nigerians because Nigerians are going through a lot through this difficult time.
Well, some analysts are saying there's no need for this continuous strike action by the labor unions. While some other Nigerians are saying labor should just stay put and let them be, as they are already taking their destiny in their hands. Do you think Nigerians don't really need the intervention of labor unions again, to an extent?
Well, I think activities of the labor union leaders or those managing the affair recently, cast a doubt on the minds of Nigerians because today we hear they are going on strike. People or the Nigerians, they are trying to brace up for what's going to come up. If you say you're going to have a 7 days strike, people are already bracing up. All of a sudden, you call off the strike. So people are beginning to lose confidence in labor or unionism in Nigeria because they are part of they're going on strike. But you can't really fault them because when you have a negotiation with government, their last resort is to go on strike. I think that's the only yardstick or the only this thing they have to get government's attention when they want to go on strike. If negotiations are failed, I think their last resort has to go on strike. But at the verge of going on strike, if government also made a promise, I think to some extent they have also the obligation to follow the strike. But is this strike they are calling off? Is it genuine or something concrete? Reach? So that's what we need to know, so that this back and forth strike today, tomorrow, like I said, people are going to lose confidence. Let's have something concrete reach between labor and government, so that this will be nipping the bud once and for all.
Okay. Now, in your opinion, what are the root causes of industrial disharmony in Nigeria, and going forward, what is the way out of it?
All right. Thank you. Just like I've explained since, the root causes of disharmony between labor and government has been the fact that this government reached an agreement, consensus between itself and subsequent one have not followed previous or its predecessor, and this harmony between labor and government. So there has to be a continuity in policy when our government promises like a 30% raise or like a 30% minimum wage. Previous government, subsequent government should be able to implement that. So the fact that subsequent government coming on board trying to deviate from the promises of the predecessor is the root cause of this disharmony between labor and government. And the way out is for them to find a common ground and, as much as possible, implement what is contained in the agreement. And by so doing, I think this incessant strike be a thing of the past, and it will be done once and for all.
Okay, now talking about finding common ground, how can the government and the labor union build trust to help stop future strike action? Because it's really having a huge impact based on what you've said on our economy. How can the government and labor build trust to stop future strike action? Dr. Dennis.
Government should build trust, give labor what it wants. I think the labor is the civil service. They are the engine room of every government. So if wage is no longer a living wage, or what we call the disposable income, is no more living wage, not enough to take workers home due to the prevalent increase or inflation in the country. Government should raise up and increase price to reflect present economic reality. Try as much as possible to make budget for government for workers to have a nice time, because you can't say, for instance, voice of telling Nigerians to affluence. You see, then he just said Nigerians should try as much as possible to endure. So we saw the fleet of his convoy, about 100 and more than 100 vehicles, telling common Nigerians to endure the hardship. You should be able to set example. So when we're trying to battle or grapple with this, the National Assembly, approve billions of naira for the purchase of utility vehicles, for members, honorable members, and senators. So there's no balance between when you are telling the people, to endure this hardship because the economic is, shaking, or the economy is undergoing downturn, and those in government, they are living affluent, and they are displaying this affluent for Nigerians. So there's no balance. So there needs to be genuinity in what government is doing. When you say people should endure the hardship, you should try as much as possible to use recurrent expenditure, government expenditures that does not translate to anything capital projects, just making it your own consumption as much as possible to make expenses that is geared towards production instead of just making expenses about as on consumption. Do this, the people will build the trust that, okay, I think government is telling us to brace up for the challenges ahead. We see sincerity in what government is doing. They've been able to cut down their own expenses, cut down their salaries, and some other allowances, frivolous allowances, both executive and the legislature. Like you have a city allowance, furniture, etc. When if you've been able to do this, address this, then the people will see that there's sincerity in the government, and they'll begin to, trust and confidence in what government is doing. On this, I think there will be a continuous unity, the trust between the people, which is represented by the labor union government.
Okay, if you're just tuning in now, you're still on This Morning on ITV, reach you live from the Benin Network Center. We're still with Dr. Dennis Osaho Aihoroge, who is also joining us virtually from New York. I will take a short break now, and when we return back, we extend the front line of the discussion. Do stay with us.
of global warming is real. You have seen the destruction of lives and property as a result of incessant flooding. Make the environment a conducive place for all to live in. Stop polluting the environment. Protect the environment today. This message is brought to you courtesy Independent Television and Radio.
Now, all right, thank you so much for staying with us. Still this morning on ITV, we actually went on that short break so that we can return back and go on with the discussion. Dr. Dennis is still standing by all the way from New York. Dr. Dennis, thank you so much for standing by.
Thank you, Daniel.
Okay,
nice to be on your program.
Now we take you through. You've been in New York for a while now. How can the international community help us ravage some of these continuous issues that has been hitting and biting our economy?
When you say issues, which particular one are you referring to? I know there are many issues in Nigeria.
Industrial disharmony, insecurity, you name it.
Yes, that's why I say there's a handful of issues bedeviling our nation. For industrial actions, like I said, I think there needs to be sincerity of purpose. They need to build that trust between government and labor. Reaching these agreements, they have to try as much as possible that the letters of the agreement, they follow it to its logical conclusion has been carried out to his letter. That when you say you're going to do effects, worker salary, say you're going to take effect from December, you try as much as possible to effect that increment by December. You're trying to shift grants is going to cause mistrust and rift between government and workers. In terms of security, I think there are a lot of issues bordering in Edo State. We have issues of kidnapping and especially between the AO axis traveling. I think what the international bodies can do is to try as much as possible to keep the security apparatus, how to build the data. I think that's what it's like in Nigeria. We don't have data to know who is committing crime in Nigeria. We have to have data. People need to be fingerprinted in facial ID, whereby people's identity can be recognized facially as possible to have CCTV surveillance around the state, whereby everything happening in Nigeria is being covered real time. Through satellite communications now, you can know what is happening virtually everywhere. You also equip the police with what they want, patrol vans, kit them up, and you provide the necessary ammunitions. By so doing that, I think you'll be addressing that of security. Education, for example, I think things that need to be done in education in those states. We see our schools, they're in bad shape. People, students sitting on the floor receiving lectures. It's around the 3 senatorial districts in Edo State. Same thing with our hospitals, they're in bad shape. Our health centers in bad shape. So there are ways in which they can borrow from the international community, and there are also funds, international bodies that the state government can draw from to attract this development in Edo States.
All right, now quickly,
so thank you.
Quickly now, because we need to go in a moment, but how can we handle the issue of corruption? The state government is trying all it can to ensure that Edolites are safe. Even at the federal level, the federal government is doing all it can to ensure that security in the country is intact. But how do we handle the issue of corruption, Dr. Dennis, quickly? And that will be the final word as we begin to wrap up now.
Yes, let me say, I think corruption in Nigeria is dry-headed. I would say virtually majority of persons in Nigeria are corrupt. Only the civil service. Uh, I think we need to set an example and make sure that people commit corruption, there is a deterrent so that others will not follow suit. Address corruption, it has to be something that has been addressed from the top. When a leader is corrupt, I think there's the certainty that those beneath it will not be corrupt. Because, like what His Excellency is saying, that if a governor, for instance, is not adding to contracts, those under him will not be doing that. Because when you had your others, your commissioners, your aides, they'll begin to add theirs. So when you remove your hand from corruption, and they know that you are firm and stem on the issue of corruption, definitely those under you, they won't try and do that. Okay. So when you as a leader, you are not corrupt, your followers will want to follow your footsteps, because they know that when they do that, there's going to be definitely an action.
Okay.
Correct that behavior.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Dennis, for taking time to join us on the show. We do hope to have more of you on TMI.
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right, that's the much we can take from the Benin Network Center. I will quickly take you straight to the City of Power, where our colleagues are standing by in Abuja.